What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today in this video here, we're going to be going over the guild rules for the 4 weapons from the Ghost of the Deep dungeon, which in my personal opinion is my least favorite of the reprised ones for Rite of the 9 here. But we're going to go over the No Survivors SMG, the new Epitaph, which is a grenade launcher, the Greasy Luck, which is a glaive, and the Cold Comfort, a nice old rocket for you. So we're going to cover the origin traits for you first, and then go over the PvP, PvE guild rules for all of those weapons that I just talked about. So first off, for our origin traits, we got ourselves Restoration Ritual. Reviving allies or defeating combatants with finishers reloads this weapon and readies an emergency ammo refill for the next time this weapon runs out of ammo. So pretty solid in the PvE realm in my personal opinion for origin traits. Your second option of origin traits is the Gravity Well origin trait that we are getting on all of Rite of the 9 weapons. Reloading this weapon automatically gathers ammo that is nearby. Definitely a very good PvE origin trait. So as for our first weapon here, the No Survivors Aggressive Frame Solar SMG. For me, for PvP, I'm going to be using the Ricochet rounds +5 in range, +10 in stability for our magazine. In our third column for this, I really think your best option and only option for the No Survivors for PvP is Rangefinder. Aiming this weapon increases its effective range. Zoom magnification, this increases the projectile speed for velocity, and rockets for grenade launchers and bows, so not really for this, but we're going to get that nice range increase, and zoom magnification definitely feels the best for the PvP. In the fourth column, we got 2 different options for you. First one is Master of Arms. Kills with any weapon improve this weapon's damage for a short period of time. So it is pretty nice because we can get this stacking up to ×2 for 25% increase in damage. It isn't as good as the old Master of Arms, but definitely is nothing to sleep on. Definitely inside of the Crucible. Your second option is Target Lock. Of course, we see this in our SMGs all the time. Rangefinder with Target Lock is probably your best option for sure, in my opinion, because that damage increases the longer the weapon remains on the target. So as long as you're not missing your shots, you're gonna absolutely melt Guardians with the role of Ricochet, Rangefinder, Target Lock. As for the PvE version of this Solar SMG, I'm gonna go with the magazine Appended Mag because we're gonna get a couple extra shots in there. Really feels the best because we're not absolutely tanking our reload speed like we would be with Extended Mag. I personally think in our third column, we really like Rewind rounds as one of our options. When this weapon's magazine is empty, it refills based on the number of hits, so it basically can be shot almost infinitely, if you will. It obviously decreases periodically because we're only getting a chunk of our ammo back, not the full thing, but it is very good for just continuing to damage enemies and keep those adds at bay. I do also like attrition orbs on this as an option, but I definitely think that your best option is our rewind rounds, but attrition orbs dealing sustained damage creates orbs of power for you, and we use orbs of power in so many different fashions in the PvE realm. Your 2 options in the fourth column are going to be Sword Logic as one of those. Final blows with this weapon grant increased damage. The strength and duration of the bonus increases when more powerful targets are defeated. We can get up to a 50% damage bonus increase when we stack it up to ×4, and that can be for 15 seconds if we defeat a boss with it. So Sword Logic with like rewind rounds is really not a bad option for this thing. I definitely think Incandescent here is your best option with rewind rounds though, just because it's more universal, more convenient overall, but defeating targets spreads Scorch to nearby targets. Powerful combatants and opposing guardians cause Scorch in a larger radius, so definitely more for the add clear potential side of stuff, but you can do some pretty fun things with spreading Scorch around, creating those ignition, stuff like that with Incandescent. So definitely what I would choose would be that Incandescent with the rewind rounds. Next on our list is the new Pacific Epitaph. This is a stasis waveframe grenade launcher, and waveframes I am a nerd for, so I definitely love this thing for PvE. Not as much of a fan for PvP, but for the PvP guide rule, I would go with high velocity rounds. So this is going to give us plus 10 to velocity, plus 10 to reload speed, and since the wave is attached to blast radius, we definitely don't want anything that's going to give us negative blast radius in the PvP route. I think you really got two options in the third column for this new Pacific. We got unrelenting, rapidly defeating targets triggers health regeneration. Guardians and more powerful combatants count as more than one defeat, so if you have a couple of those grenades ready in the PvP realm, you can get your health back pretty quickly against Guardians. Your other option is that recycled energy. Reloading after defeating targets grants you energy to your lowest charged ability, and you can't go wrong with spamming your abilities inside of the Crucible, so totally up to you. Like I said, I'm not a big grenade launcher fan, but I would rather use something like this than like a grenade launcher that you have to time and explode just right, even though they probably are a little bit more deadly. I really think that your only option in this fourth column for this new Pacific is probably chain reaction, just because you can get a nice big damaging explosion that's going to be stasis burn when you get defeats with this, and it's about 44 in that radius, 44.8 to be exact it says, or I should say it does 44.8 damage in a 2.4 meter radius, so definitely not a bad option. And like I said in most of my videos with PvP realm stuff, it's going to be Guardians kind of hugging each other, and you can really go hard into that unrelenting or recycled energy and chain reaction. PvE side of this weapon, I'm gonna go with high velocity rounds again as our magazine, just because like I said, our wave is tied to our blast radius, so we don't want to really go negative in our blast radius at all like we like to do on our direct impact grenade launchers, because that's a little bit better for damage. On this, you want blast radius as high as you can, hence why we're going with high velocity rounds once again. Not gonna lie, not really loving the rolls on this in our third column for the PvE side, but we do got lead from gold, so picking up heavy also grants us ammo in this weapon, so we can really never run out of ammo if you're just kind of farming heavy, so not a bad option, at least in my opinion. Your other option is demolitionist, so kills with this weapon generate as grenade energy. Activating our grenade also reloads this from reserves, so it is a very good add clear weapon, and you can get multiple defeats very quickly, so you can spam your grenade pretty heavily in the PvE realm. When you're using this, I think I would probably go with demolitionist as my number one choice. Fourth column, we got two options for you. I'm going to go with chain reaction also as a very good one, especially chain reaction with demolitionist. You're able to really feel that demo up very quickly, so it pairs very well together, and you get that nice AoE damage going on. You can absolutely wipe out waves upon waves of ads. I personally also like Adrenaline Junkie in this column, especially if you're pairing it with demolitionist, because this weapon gains increased damage and handling from final blows with grenades or this weapon. So if you're getting your grenade back by getting defeats, and then you get damage on this weapon from throwing your grenades, you can kind of keep up that damage consistently, and it can stack up to 33%. So very good combo, but definitely would go demolitionist with chain reaction as your number one option for this new Epitaph. Third on our list right here for god rolls for Ghosts of the Deep is the Greasy Luck. This glaive right here is a rapid fire, and it is a good old solar burn. I'm not much of a glaive user, but definitely got some pretty good options. So PvP wise, I personally like Swap Mag as our magazine because it increases the ready and stow speed of this weapon, and for me it feels so slow to switch out to a glaive and try to melee sometimes, and this definitely helps and makes it feel way better. Third column, two options for y'all. First one is melee momentum. Melee final blows with this weapon granted increased bonus energy and provide movement speed while blocking. Definitely use it for that movement speed because you don't want to feel clunky and slow when you're trying to block all that damage from those other guardians. Your other option is beacon rounds. Final blows with this weapon grant your projectile tracking and increased reload speed. Dealing further damage extends this duration, and this can also be tracked, or I guess procced I should say, with glaive glaive melee final blow. So if you get a melee final blow, you can get beacons to proc and then hit a guardian that's a little bit farther away. Definitely also a good option, but melee momentum is probably the go-to for a lot of people because it's mostly used, in my personal opinion, to get up close and personal, which you want that blocking movement speed for. Fourth column, 2 options. Once again, we got ourselves Unstoppable Force as our first one. Blocking damage with our shield increases projectile velocity for a short period of time. Definitely not a bad option, especially with that melee momentum. You can block, get close, get a melee defeat, and then use that extra damage to do some nice little hits on those enemies. That is 20% increase in that projectile damage, so not a bad option. But like I said, I'm not a big glaive user. Your other option is kind of like in reverse of that, close to melee glaive final blows with that projectile increase melee damage. So glaive projectile or melee damage also extends this duration. So basically, if you get a defeat with the projectile, and then you can just go ham on guardians with the melee damage, because that's just going to keep refreshing the extension of that damage duration. So a very good combination. I do think melee momentum with close to melee is probably the 5 out of 5 that a lot of people are going for the PvP realm of this glaive with the Greasy luck. Now for me, for this Greasy luck, we're going to go with the light mag as our magazine, actually, because we get plus 10 to reload and a little bit of extra range. So just kind of like a jack of all trades magazine for this glaive, and most glaives if you can get it on it. 2 options in the third column. We got Reconstruction as our first one. This weapon slowly reloads itself to double its capacity over time, so not too shabby. You can really get some good shots going on. It's about 8 to 10 that you can get in the magazine with Reconstruction. I personally like Replenishing Aegis though as my number 1 choice. Blocking damage partially refills the magazine from its reserves, so if you do happen to run out, all you got to do is tank that damage with the shield and you're going to get your shots back. Very, very good in that end game content. Glaives do block a good amount of damage, not as much as like a Stronghold Titan with a sword, but it's still a good amount of damage, so I would go with Replenishing over our other option. For me, for Greasy luck, I guess we're going to go with 3 options. 2 of them are very similar, I guess, in my personal opinion, but we got Unstoppable Force with Replenishing Aegis is probably my number 1 choice that I will be going for. Unstoppable Force, blocking damage with our shield increases that projectile damage, so we're going to get 20% damage increase, and then we're also going to get our magazine to refill when we block damage, so that is a very good positive feedback loop there. Our second option is Chain Reaction. Each final blow with this weapon creates an elemental final blow at that damage type, so it's going to be a nice solar elemental final blow explosion that we're going to get. Pretty good AoE kind of going on with it. Not a bad option in my opinion. And kind of the same concept, Incandescent. Defeating target spreads Scorch to nearby allies. This is definitely the better option of the 2 between Chain Reaction and Incandescent, because that Scorch is going to be very good for creating stuff like ignitions. We can technically even stun Unstoppables with the Scorch if we can get it to stack up high enough and create an ignition. So Incandescent is my second choice, but definitely number 1 should be that Unstoppable Force. And last but certainly not least, we got ourselves the Cold Comfort Stasis Rocket from the Ghost of the Deep. Definitely pretty solid rolls that we can get for PvE, and not too shabby in PvP. So PvP, we're going to start out with a Black Powder, because for this magazine it's going to give us that plus 5 to blast radius. Even though we lose 10 in stability, you want blast radius as high as possible with your rockets for the Crucible. Really, I think your only option in the third column is going to be Tracking Module. Adds tracking capability of rockets. They lock onto targets, and aiming down sights, they track on them. So definitely really good in the Crucible, especially in something like 6s, because you're going to be able to get a bunch of defeats with this. And I like it the best because you don't got to really worry about aiming. You just kind of got to aim at somebody, it's going to lock on, and then it's just going to go after them. Same thing in the fourth column. I wasn't really liking any of our other options besides Chill Clips. So direct hits with the top half of the magazine cause detonation that slows targets, so definitely not a bad aspect, because PvP for 1.5 seconds, it's going to give us a 60 in that slow stack. Very very good because slow is tough to get away from inside of the Crucible realm. Totally up to you, but I personally really like Chill Clip. On the other hand, PvE wise, we do got some pretty good rolls in the 3rd and 4th column, but as for our magazine, we're gonna go with the impact casing because it increases the damage on direct hits, plus it's gonna give us plus 10 to stability. Definitely what you're looking for to help you out with the DPS side of this weapon. 3rd column, we got ourselves 2 options, with reconstruction being one of them. This weapon slowly reloads itself up to double capacity, so we can have about 2 in the magazine, if you will, for stasis rockets. Nothing too crazy, but it can help with the process of damage rotations. You can do some shotguns, and by the time you switch back to the reconstruction side, you're going to have that double rockets again. Not a terrible combination in my personal opinion. Probably works a little bit better with something like pulse rifles or sniper rifles, so you're not standing up close and personal. Same kind of concept right here. My number 1 choice, impact casing with Envious Arsenal. Envious Arsenal is going to deal damage with both of our other weapons, is going to refill this from reserves, so that damage rotation is really disgusting with rockets that have this Envious Arsenal on it. So you can hit with this, switch to both of your other weapons, something like maybe even a Wither Horde with then like a primary weapon, and you're just going to continuously refill this weapon, switch onto it, do more damage, switch to your other 2, and just kind of continue that nice little feedback loop. Would be looking for this as your number 1 option. In the 4th column for this aggressive framer rocket, we got 3 options, I believe, as you know, you can kind of pick and choose from. Explosive Light is the first one. Picking up orbs increases the next projectile's blast radius and damage. It can stack up to ×6, with that being a good 25% increase in that impact and explosive damage. So very, very good option in my personal opinion. Definitely the number 1 choice for the damage side of this weapon is going to be bait and switch, because with impact casing, Envious Arsenal, and bait and switch, you have the perfect rotation of dealing damage with all your equipped weapons. Gives this a damage boost, which is 30% for a short period of time, and you can get that nasty rotation that I was talking about. Do damage with this, do damage with your other 2. You're going to reload with Envious, and then you're going to get that 30% damage increase with bait and switch, and you can just continuously do that and absolutely juice bosses during damage phases. Your last option, which I'm really not sure of, but something like Bipod is really not a bad option, because we get that decrease in blast radius, and that kind of increases damage with single shots like it does on like our rocket powered sidearms. You could go with this if you wanted, especially if you pair it with reconstruction, so you can get 2 shots of that damage going on. But it's not bad in my personal opinion. I know we lose a little bit of damage, but it isn't too terrible in my personal opinion. Your best options are definitely Explosive Light or bait and switch, but I hear people talking about Bipod all the time, and it's a good option, I guess, to throw on. So totally up to you if you want to try it out, but impact casing, Envious Arsenal, bait and switch for this Cold Comfort is your 5 out of 5 without question. So that's all the god rolls that we got for the Ghost of the Deep. Like I said, it's my least favorite of the reprised dungeons, but with these reprised rolls, definitely going to be grinding it out, hopefully getting some of those adepts, some of those shinies going on. So definitely give it a try and see if you guys can get some of these god rolls as well. But again, appreciate all you guys for always coming back to the channel. Means a lot to me, means a lot to the channel. Don't be afraid to like, subscribe, slap that bell as well, because you can also get those notifications when we put out builds, guides, god roll videos just like this, and you will never miss any content that we post on the channel. So once again, appreciate you guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying Rite of the 9, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.